Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into one of the most, well, legendary and, let's be honest, pretty disgusting challenges from mythology. The fifth labor of Hercules, cleaning the Augean Stables.
Right, and you have to picture this, we're talking acres and acres of stables, housing thousands of animals.
And they hadn't been cleaned in how long?
Decades, according to the sources. So just imagine an unbelievable amount of filth, mounds of manure, the smell. I mean, just an impossible task, seemingly.
Yeah, stretching as far as you can see. You'd think, for any normal person, years, a lifetime maybe.
Absolutely.
And knowing Hercules, the strong man, you'd expect him to just, I don't know, grab a giant shovel.
That's the obvious thought, isn't it? Brute force.
Yeah.
But that's what makes this one so fascinating, especially looking at the sources. His approach wasn't just muscle.
That was clever. Ingenuity.
Exactly. It was brilliant, really. Kind of radical. He didn't touch a shovel. Instead, he looked at the landscape, saw two rivers nearby.
The Alpheus and the Peneus.
Those are the ones. And he literally rerouted them, diverted their flow right through the stables.
Wow. Just flushed everything out.
The whole thing. And the sources emphasized the speed. It wasn't days or weeks.
Hours.
Yeah, cleaned in mere hours. Decades of filth gone, just like that.
Astonishing. So our mission for this deep dive, looking at all the material you brought together, is to figure out why this story sticks around. It's obviously more than just, tidying up.
Oh, much more. The sources dig into these really deep symbolic layers. They connect it to things like internal purification, getting spiritually ready, even stages of personal growth in different traditions.
Okay. So we're tracing those connections.
That's the plan. And the core myth itself, even before the symbolism, the sources highlight it as this immediate lesson in creative problem solving.
Because the obvious way was impossible.
Right. If you just tried to shovel it, you'd fail. Hercules found a totally different angle.
It really does hammer home that idea of strategic thinking, resourcefulness, rather than just pouring in more effort.
And the sources stress that this showed, incredible perseverance too, determination. It's like a timeless reminder. Even these overwhelming, huge challenges.
You'll be beaten.
Yeah, with enough resolve and maybe some out-of-the-box thinking, don't just work harder, work smarter, essentially.
Okay, now this is where it gets really layered. Looking at how different symbolic systems see this labor. Let's start with the Freemasonry angle. The material we have suggests this is a big symbol of purification.
Yes, a very powerful one. And it connects back to some really ancient practices mentioned in the sources. Ritual cleansing, often with water.
Like preparing for something bigger.
Exactly. It used to prepare initiates, get them ready for, let's say, higher mysteries or deeper understanding. In this Masonic context, the labor marks a kind of shift.
A shift from what to what?
Well, from focusing purely inward on mastering yourself to being ready to actually, affect the world around you, to serve.
And the sources get specific here. They talk about standing on the final step of the second set of winding stairs. That sounds like a distinct stage.
It is, and they link it to the sense of taste, interestingly, and also the composite order of architecture.
Okay, the composite order. That's seen as, the peak of classical design.
Right.
Refined.
Right, a culmination. So what does that symbolism point to? It suggests that by this stage, that whole inward journey, getting to know yourself, it's reached a point where all five senses are kind of awake and working together for self-understanding.
So taste and the composite order aren't just literal here.
No, they're symbols for this state of inner balance, refinement, like you've built your internal temple, as the sources put it.
A temple that's strong, balanced, functional, elegant even.
Precisely. It's solid. You've achieved a certain level of self-mastery.
So with that inner work done, that foundation built, you're ready for the next thing.
That's exactly the idea presented. The sources indicate that once this deep internal work is complete, your focus naturally turns outward. You're prepared to ascend, to climb that third, final set of stairs.
Towards higher understanding or deeper service.
Both, potentially. The inner work basically enables effective outer action or engagement.
Interesting. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Another thread in our sources connects this labor to astrology, specifically the sign of Aquarius.
Yes, and this connection is really compelling. Aquarius is strongly associated with themes like regeneration, transformation, and, crucially, purging.
Purging, like cleaning out the old stuff.
Exactly. Emotional baggage, psychological patterns, things holding you back.
Yeah.
Just like Hercules cleared the physical waste, Aquarius's energy is often about diving into the subconscious, facing those darker, buried parts of yourself.
In order to, what, come out cleaner on the other side?
To emerge renewed, revitalized. It's that kind of deep cleanse.
And what about Hercules' sheer power and drive in doing this? The sources link that determination not just to Aquarius, but also to Mars, right?
Right. Aquarius provides maybe the innovative approach, the focus on purification, but Mars is the engine.
The planet of action, courage.
Yes. Mars represents that driving force, the willpower that lets Hercules tackle these huge, almost impossible tasks. It fuels his determination, his fortitude.
So he embodies that warrior hero archetype partly through Mars.
Very much so, according to this interpretation. That martial energy gives him the strength to face the challenge and the will to actually conquer it.
Okay.
Let's weave in the tarot now. The sources link this whole labor to the Eight of Swords card. Now, the description mentioned in the material sounds a bit odd at first.
How so?
It talks about the figure in the card being blinded, deafened, bound, unable to taste. 4 out of 5 senses muted. And it explicitly mentions that second set of winding stairs again. Sounds like being trapped, not cleansed or ready. Okay, yeah, that's a really key point in how the sources interpret this. It seems contradictory, but the clarification is crucial. This state in the card, it's depicted after the person has already gained the ability to use all their senses for self-knowledge.
Oh, I see. So it's not about being literally sense-deprived.
Not in the sense of lacking the capacity. It might represent a point of intense internal focus, or maybe a transition. The sources say that in this state, the only thing the figure can truly sense is the water of wisdom they're standing on.
Water again, like the rivers. So it's less about being cut off from the outside world and more about tuning into inner knowing, intuition.
That seems to be the idea, an intense focus on that inner wisdom symbolized by the water. And even though the immediate senses might seem limited in the card's image, there's something else.
What's that?
The goal is still visible. There's a tower in the distance, which the source material links to ultimate enlightenment or the final goal.
So the journey's not over. Even with this inner refinement, you still have to strive towards that higher point.
Exactly. It reinforces that idea. And there's the detail about the swords themselves, how they're arranged.
Right, 2 groups, 3 on one side, 5 on the other. What's the significance there?
Well, the material explains the 3 swords represent the first 3 degrees or maybe the initial stages of a particular path or system.
Okay, and the 5.
Those symbolize the 5 senses, which we talked about, and also the 5 orders of architecture, linking back to that idea of building the inner temple.
Ah, so the tools.
Yeah.
The senses and the architectural knowledge needed to build.
Exactly. Putting it together, the sources suggest it signifies having been given the knowledge, the foundational tools, to construct that inner self, that temple. You're equipped.
Equipped and ready to shift focus again.
Yes. It indicates you can now look beyond just yourself, towards that light, that distant tower. It really underlines that enlightenment isn't just about external sight or sound. It's an awakening, a structure built from within.
So if we tried to, tie all these threads together, the myth itself, Freemasonry, astrology, tarot, there's a really strong common theme, isn't there?
Definitely.
It's this move away from just brute force towards cleverness, ingenuity, and transformation. That idea of water, purification, keeps coming up.
Absolutely. That physical act of cleansing the stables becomes this powerful metaphor across all these different systems for the internal cleansing that's needed for real growth.
Whether it's the ritual washing in the mysteries or the Aquarian purging of old baggage.
Or the inner work in Freemasonry and tarot that prepares you to ascend. The pattern's clear. Purification is key.
So the shared lesson, pulling from all these sources, isn't just be clever when solving problems. It's deeper.
Much deeper. It seems to be that real renewal, real progress, the ability to actually climb higher or make a difference. It comes from a combination of things.
Like?
Wisdom, being adaptable, having the courage that Mars energy may, or the Aquarian resilience to let go of the junk weighing you down, and that willingness to do the inner purification.
It all seems to point back to that crucial inner work we discussed. Getting the senses working together, building that inner foundation, facing your own stuff, your shadows.
That's the groundwork. That's the preparation that's non-negotiable, according to these interpretations.
And only after completing that prep are you really equipped for the next stage. To turn outwards, climb higher, contribute more, like moving from those winding stairs to the final climb. or seeing that distant tower in the tarot card.
Yeah, that seems to be the progression.
So the core insight from this deep dive, looking through all these lenses, it really highlights how the fifth labor shows that radical change, doing the seemingly impossible, often requires more than just action. It needs that ingenious thinking and that deep internal cleanup, preparation.
Well put. It's both the clever idea and the readiness within.
Which kind of leads to a final thought, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Something reflected in the source material's questions for the reader, for you listening. What are the Augean stables in your own life?
Good question. Those areas may be personal habits, maybe ways your team works, or just situations that feel stuck, overwhelmingly messy, resistant to the usual fixes.
Or shoveling just isn't working.
Right. And thinking like Hercules.
Yeah.
How could you think differently? What rivers could you metaphorically redirect to bring about a really radical, transformative cleanse?
How could you find that leverage point for renewal?
Exactly. Something to definitely reflect on.